Well, it's a huge event, and it was started really by Trevor and his wife Lorraine Stanley way back in 2003. We're talking the North Canterbury Classic Car Tour, and yep, there's another one on the way, everybody. In fact, the 27th of September. Let's speak to the man who got this underway way back 17, nearly 18 years ago. Trevor, a very good morning to you.
Thank you very much, John.
Lovely to have you in our studio. Trevor, tell us about that very first one. What gave you the idea, and how successful was that first one, Trevor?
Well, I've been running events since 1984. Most of them were focused on Fords, but I knew so many people with other makes of classic cars that weren't Ford, so I thought, well, let's start a rally that everybody is entitled to, no matter which car they drive. So that's how it all started back in 03.
Yeah, and there was how many entries that year?
We had 78 entries that year, starting from the Kokonui Hotel in Kaipoi.
Yep, and you decided, hey, this has been all right, this is a success, and you brought it back the following year, and I think you more or less doubled your entries, didn't you?
We did. We had increased to 148.
Yeah, and what about by 2007? That's only, 4 years later. By the fifth one, you were up to how many cars?
252, actually.
Wow, amazing. Is that the biggest one to date?
That is the biggest one to date.
Why was that so big, Trevor?
I think that city people like visiting homesteads, and that reflects in the fact that the Vintage Car Club have an annual homestead run. They have a run every month, but more people turn up for the homestead run than any other event during the year.
Right.
This is probably why they like visiting country homesteads.
Yeah, I guess the two kind of go hand in hand, don't they, when you think about it? So is there a different course every year?
There's a different course every year. Mm-hmm. Initially, we used to start off in the early days from different places, such as New Brighton car park. But of course, once the New Brighton had the earthquake came along, we had to start it in a better place. Then, because I shifted out to Amberley in 2011 after the earthquake, because I was red zoned in Avondale. So we decided, well, why not start them in Amberley? So we've done that ever since.
Okay, this year, where are you heading for, Trevor?
Well, that's a little bit of a secret.
Oh, it's a secret.
I don't like to tell anybody.
Okay. Ooh,
they don't know where they're going until the moment they get their registration, their route sheet.
Right, fantastic. So the whole thing's shrouded in secrecy until the day people actually don't really know where they're heading for. Tell us about some of the cars. I want to ask you about yours in a moment. What's the oldest car you've ever had on one of your tours?
Probably about a 1928 Dodge, I think.
Yep.
Because the vintage cars are also welcome. We don't get a lot of vintages. We generally only get about 3 or 4. Most of them are classics.
Right.
But I just want to clear up the fact that it's called the North Canterbury Classic Tour isn't confined totally to vintage or classic cars. We accept exotic cars such as late model Mustangs, Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, and we do get some of those.
Do you? Yum. Trevor, how many cars have you got, classic cars?
1, 2, 3.
3?
Yes.
Your favourite?
My 65 Ford Falcon, which I bought 25 years ago from the lady that bought it brand new, and we're actually on the same piece of land where that car was bought from in 1965.
So we are sitting now here at Compass FM in our studio on the very piece of land where that car yard was, or that particular car dealer was. Who were they?
They were Palmer and Doak, and I think they were Ford agents in North Canterbury from about 1928, if I recall rightly, and they went right through to 1989.
Okay.
My car was purchased here in 1965, and funny enough, the salesman for that car was a man called Harold Heasley, who was a builder initially a builder in Rangiora, and later a salesperson for Palmer and Oaks. In actual fact, he won the New Zealand Saloon Car Championship in 1959-1960 season in a Humber 80.
Really?
He sold Fords, but he's raced a Humber 80.
Yeah. How do you feel about what's happening with Ford Falcon now, Trevor? Are they still making them, or is that?
I can't answer that question because I'm not up with the brand new vehicles anymore.
Right, fair enough. Okay, well, we've got these the Classic Car Tour coming up. How many are you expecting entries-wise this time, Trevor?
Well, this is always a mystery because we do not take pre-registration. We don't know whether 10 will turn up or whether it will be 510.
Yep. So what do you have to qualify, basically, as a classic car? I think you may have touched on that, but just to make it clear.
Well, a lot of people are asking me that question, and unlike vintage, where it's got a specific shut-off dates, like i.e. vintage cars at shut-off date of 1931, there's no official shut-off date for classic cars, but generally, rule of thumb is 30 years old. The Vintage Car Club accept cars, they've got a 30-year sliding rule, so each year year it bumps up 1 year. So in other words, you could have a car up to 1990. That's generally a rule of thumb.
Yep.
But I accept some exotic cars on my run.
Okay. Just cars, Trevor. What about motorcycles? Trucks?
We invite motorcycles, but we don't get very many.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting increasingly more early Japanese cars are becoming very popular.
Yep.
I myself has just finished a 4-year restoration on a car that is reputed to be the only one in New Zealand. It's a 1982 Hyundai TLS Coupe. And a lot of North Canterbury people know the car because it's sat under the Saltwater Creek garage. There's an old derelict garage just by the Saltwater Creek Bridge up there by Leithfield.
Yes.
And it sat under that veranda for 8 years that I'm aware of. And I just went along one day and stopped to see what it was. I wanted to just look at the registration sticker on the windscreen to find out what it was. And as my luck would have it, that very particular moment, the chap that owns it was out mowing his lawn.
Oh,
so we got talking and I bought it from him.
I remember you telling me that story, actually. It must have been this time last year. And that car now is pristine. Put a dollar value on that one, Trevor. Come on.
Like, you can't. To man in the street, it's not. Because of its rarity, kind of makes a weird of a problem, and if you were to damage it or whatever, where do you get any spares? But they are Mitsubishi Mirage based mechanically.
Yep.
So I've been able to get a lot of new parts for it, through the Mitsubishi agency.
Right. I'm looking at your business card at the moment. Tell us about the car that graces the front page of this. You say your 65 Falcon's your favourite, but this is just beautiful. What is it?
It's a 1936 Ford V8 Roadster. And there's a bit of a story about why I restored one of those. When I first met my wife, Lorraine, at 16 years of age, I had a red 36 V8 Roadster, which we used to go down to Sumner and New Brighton, had great fun in it. And after about 30, 40 years of marriage, I thought, now what car would I like to restore? 36 V8 Roadster. Well, there's only 5 of them brought into the country when they were new, and I managed to trace 4 of them, the owners of 4 of them, and they were about my age and they didn't want to part with them because they've had them since the 60s. Mm-hmm. So I finally heard about a derelict one in a dairy farm in Sefton and went and had a look at it. Well, it was now or never. Everybody said to me, you're wasting your time, Trevor. That car has gone beyond the point of no return, body-wise. But I had to accept it, pay $2,000 for it, took it home and spent 13 years on it.
And that is it. I'm looking at a picture of it right now, and it looks like it's brand new on the showroom floor. It really does.
A lot of new restorations today are actually better than they were when they were new, because of the technology we've got, like sandblasting and painting, has helped restore us tremendously.
Oh, you've done a marvellous job there, Trevor. How on earth do you source everything? Where do you get all your bits and bobs? You must spend so much time researching and finding things for your vehicles.
Yes, that's pure patience.
Yep.
And in a case like that, I managed to get a fantastic bodybuilder, because the body in that vehicle was probably nearly 80% brand new.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you. That is just a work of art. And of course, everybody, I take it, will be able to see this car on the day?
No, I will be taking the Falcon.
You're taking the Falcon. I had a feeling you might say that. Couldn't you get a mate? No, you wouldn't let a mate drive that one, I don't suppose. Trevor, I take it you are allowed to tell us where this starts from this year?
Absolutely. It's at the Better Half Cafe, which a lot of people, whereabouts is that? Well, it's on State Highway 1, just after the passing lanes merge, just after you're heading north, I'm talking about, after you pass Saltwater Creek.
Yep.
You've got the passing lanes and they merge up the road, and just after they merge, on the right, there's a cafe on the corner of Ashworth Beach Road and State Highway 1. It was previously known as Castle Park Cafe and then Woodlands Cafe. Then it closed down for a couple of years, and new people bought it, and they've renovated it all up and renamed it Better Half.
Great. Now, 27th of September, what time do people need to be there?
They can start coming there because of daylight saving, so we're allowing a little bit later because daylight saving is introduced the night before.
Yes.
So they can come from 10 o'clock because the cafe will be open if those who want to have even their breakfast or their a cup of coffee before they leave.
Yep.
And then we'll start departing them off one by one, not all together. We don't the police don't like a whole convoy of cars.
No, understandably.
We could have 200 cars, so we've got to let them go, 30-second intervals so they can depart. Once they've registered, whatever time that may be it 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, they can start departing in their own time.
Okay, how much to enter a car?
$15 per vehicle.
And what a lot of people may not realise is all proceeds go to charity.
They do in this case. place, it is the Amberley Man Shed.
The Men Shed Amberley are the recipients of this year's Classic Car Tour here in North Canterbury. Trevor Stanley, everybody, make sure you are there if you have a classic car on the 27th, starting from sort of 10 o'clock that morning. Lovely to see you, Trevor, and look forward to catching up this time next year.